Synchronized boops. What?
Yeah, that's fine. Have you seen the videos with cats?
What?
You know, approach the floof, boop the floof. That's just hitting them on the nose, you know, gently, and then seeing how many of them look at you like, what did you just do, human? Hi,
Hey,
Patreons. Nothing like coming in on an awkward part of a conversation. Not that was truly awkward.
They're literally going to be sitting there going, okay, we want a sticker now, boop the floof.
Well, that's actually a video. You can find that on all kinds. I mean, come on. We're talking about the internet. How many cat videos are there on the internet?
Yeah, I am not Googling boop the floof on my computer unless Safe Search is on. That's all I got to say.
I got him, didn't I?
Oh, I so badly want to hit these buttons. So badly want to hit these buttons, but I'm not going to yet.
Yes, Scott, Patreons, I'm going to start out with a direct comment to you guys. Thanks for everything. Scott has a new toy. We finally, we've worked off our portable machine now for the last almost 3 years.
Yeah.
The main board
is too cumbersome.
Well, it's not just that, but I don't know if you guys can remember back that far. If you listen to some of the shows back 3 years ago, you'll hear this as he was adjusting. There were the sliders were a little bit crusty, musty, and like an old Jeep, rusty.
Exactly. It was a great board. It still is. We still have it.
Yeah.
But when we have the board, the laptop, the drink, the mouse, it's like the desk was leaning this way towards me a little bit, and it was a little cumbersome.
Yeah, he was kind of like Scotty down in engineering.
Yes.
Giving her all she's got.
Exactly. I was pedaling with my heart out.
Don't go there. The sad point is he doesn't do a good Scottish accent.
No, I don't. I can do a good Scott.
He does a really good Mickey Mouse, though.
I can do a great Scott accent. I can do a great Scott accent, which is me stuttering and trying to get the words out.
So anyway,
yes,
interesting lead into the show.
So thank you to all the Patreons.
Yes, all of you.
You
one
make
and all.
this special, and including our corporate ones. Thank you.
Yeah, making it possible.
Yes.
So that's awesome.
Yeah.
As well as I've got to, and we'll get into individuals in the show, but I cannot resist coming to the Patreons first and saying I am blown away by this last month's response on Facebook.
Yeah.
The number of likes, hits, subscribes are just through the roof. I know we've underused Facebook before, and I apologize. I am not exactly the most social media creative individual out there.
But he's come up with some really cool ideas. So if you haven't checked it out yet, he's cool doing some wiring harness kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, and we'll talk about that in the show as far as what I've been doing in the garage and that stuff. But no, it's really nice to see it for you guys. And as Patreons, I wanted to make a personal comment that if you guys have questions or ideas, as some of you have, Facebook's a great way to get it to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we do see everything you guys send us. And usually, if I don't, I get a ding during the middle of the day from Scott, who is bored behind a counter going, "Did you see?" So
we'll go on why I'm bored around the
You know, he's not setting up for the intro real well here. Oh, let's not put this off any longer.
It's like the 70s from my last comment I made. You need the good strong caffeine to get you there, and then you need the Tylenol PM to finally fall asleep. Did I say Tylenol PM?
I'm not sure what that was. Now that you said that, I know what the reference was. But
I did a couple of messages.
The Tylenol.
Be careful when you mention the word caffeine. Yep.
No, I'm good with caffeine, except I take mine fresh brewed on ice, and
I take mine rocket fuel.
I know. I used to take mine rocket fuel till my doctor said, "Yeah, you're going to have a what do they call it?
Cardiac event."
Well, yeah, cardiac. Yeah, my motors were going to blow up during a liftoff somewhere along the lines.
Should we get started?
Do you want me to do the intro by chance?
No, I'm going to power through this.
Okay, you do that.
I'm going to make this work.
All right.
So with that. All right, so. Hey, Jeepers, welcome to another exciting and fun-filled adventure on the Trail podcast with Kevin and Scott. That is right. I'm your overly caffeinated parts host, parts guy, I guess you could say, slapstick and otherwise, and I'm way over caffeinated, and I want to sit there and say hello to everyone. And remember, I am going to sit here and try and fumble through this the best way I can. With that, I'm going to turn it over to my main partner, the main engineer, the man with the plan and the torque wrench in his hand, Kevin.
If you haven't found out, Scott has a new toy. Hi, I'm Kevin. You should already know that by now with Scott's rather long-winded and energetic intro. As he noted, I'm the engineer. I'm the guy who reads the manual, uses the right tools, and follow those manuals most of the time. Occasionally, I do get a little creative. Anyway, we're here in our lovely little studio in Central Florida, where spring is sprunging. So if we start doing this, it's not COVID. It's the fact that the trees are having rampant enjoyment between the he and she trees. And we have all kinds of yellow pollen fronds snowing down gracefully on cars, on driveways, sidewalks, grass, you, me, and you try to breathe and you kind of go...
Try washing a black Jeep Gladiator, bring it home from the car wash, park it under the oak tree, walk inside for 20 minutes, come back outside not 20 minutes later and stare at your black Gladiator.
Yeah. Folks, I hope he gets over this in the first show.
Okay. I just had to do it. Yeah, but no, like Kevin said, it's very disheartening, and you're literally breathing in orange dust.
Well, I wouldn't say disheartening because there's a lot of listeners up there that are still shoveling 2 feet of snow and looking at another Arctic clipper coming down. So,
meanwhile,
I do have, pretty much you've been a Florida boy most of your life. I've lived up there
all my life.
And I'm quite understanding and very... thankful that all I have to deal with is the pollen. The other fun thing here, folks, in Florida that's a little weird is the rest of the state sees fall as when the leaves fall.
Right, yeah.
It doesn't happen down here. It's spring when the oak trees go, okay, we're done with these leaves. Let's put some new ones out while the sun's coming out.
Yeah.
And you'd think that we were in, October with the mounds and mounds. I'm not exaggerating here, folks. I honestly think I have moved about 25 bushels of leaves to the dump area, and it's just like, oh boy.
I just get the leaf blower and blow into that guy's lawn.
So,
no, I'm kidding. I don't do that.
But no, because you don't have a lawn at this point.
Ow. Ow.
Oh, come on. Your chunk of grass is what, a couple of 100 feet wide?
And I don't even have to mow it.
Yeah, you don't. So, anyway, as far as upcoming stuff that we should kick this off with, is we mentioned it in passing last show, but I'm going to mention it a little bit heavier, is we're finally getting to do something Jeep-related.
Yay!
After a year of sitting down here and frickin' something ending with a 19.
Yeah, moving on. And not US 19 either.
No. Jeep Beach is coming up here very, very soon, about 30 days out from this recording. Not even quite 30 days, is it?
Math, carry the 2, add the twist tie from the bread wrapper. Okay. I have no idea.
Okay. It's he's going to make
April
me
19th weekend.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so by the time you hear this, it'll only be 2 weeks away.
Yes.
I have my registration.
Mine is in the mail.
And it's interesting that I figured as late as I submitted it that I would be kind of one of the long...
Yeah, like sticker number 1,984.
Right. And I'm under the 1,500 mark, which is the first wave, they call it, and it kind of surprised me.
Yeah.
And Scott is registered. He just hasn't received his package yet.
No, it's in the mail.
It's in the mail.
Yeah.
And so we will both be down there in Daytona Beach, Florida.
Yep, that's
and I
right.
can tell you what, if you're going to be in the area, looks like it's going to be a heck of a lot of fun. Looking at the vendors that are coming out. Now, for those that haven't been there before or heard of some of our podcasts in the prior years, there is some wheeling, both on the obstacle course in the Daytona Speedway center field, and then some groups in the local area will take you out to some of the local parks for a fee.
Right.
But it's really more about the social event, wheeling on the beach, folks, not in the water, unless you want to see your Jeep rust in front of your very eyes.
Yes.
But
good segue here.
And just kind of go out and, do the social scene. Lots and lots and lots of neat vendors come to this event set up in the Midway. You can walk through and talk to lots of great people who are selling you all kinds of Jeep-related stuff. Jeep usually comes and sets up a whole area. We got to see the Gladiator at Jeep Beach before we ever got to see it even at SEMA.
Yeah.
So, it's a pretty well-attended event. So if you can squeak out, you can go and just Google Jeep Beach and it'll come up, or Bing it, or explore it, or whatever you got to do to find it. And the registration's, not bad.
No, it wasn't that bad.
And there's still hotel rooms open because of the travel issues that people are having. So, obviously, if you live here, it's great. If you're not that many states away, it's still a worthy trip, and you can come down. And right now we are in the mid 80s, sometimes tucked in that low 90 number already.
You do hear the steady hum of the Florida living dwelling air conditioner.
Right. Yes. Here in Florida, people will drive with a blown transfer case, but not with a blown AC.
Oh, heck no. One of the first things I did. I just said it recently, like 2 shows ago. It's like you start getting that big husky guy sweat. You're like, you know what? That's not going to happen.
So anyway, hope to see you there. We'll be walking around with our T-shirts on, and if you see us and want to chat, fine.
We'll probably be carrying the scepter of podcasting too.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's up to you.
I think we should.
Okay. Well, I intend to go have some fun and actually try and break my Jeep or something like that. Go out and wheel a little bit. All it's done is the closest thing I've had to wheeling during the whole pandemic is, some of the little local trails. And I mean, I'll be honest with you folks, anybody in Colorado would look at these and go, I drive through more when I'm going to the parking lot of the Walmart. I understand that, and I completely agree with you. But you got to go where you got to go. You got in the area. The whole state, the highest point in Florida is only 300 feet above sea level.
Yeah, and that's the top of the Mickey Mouse Castle.
Maybe.
Bring your money. No, but one of the things, too, is like me, best I've done is hard parked on the curb at work.
So, as far as it goes, now we could have hurricane season coming up here before too much longer.
Hey, that would get rid of the leaves.
Yes, it would. And then I usually get the belly of the Jeep washed as I try and cross things and get over there. Referencing my earlier comment, if you are coming, please, if you respect your Jeep at all, I know the ads show you cruising on the edge of the surf and the spray throwing up and making a rainbow in the sun.
You'll get in trouble if you do that down here.
You will. Not only will they'll kindly remove you from the beach, but second of all, I don't know, you might not make it home before the rust spots start bubbling in your paint.
Well, not just that, but people like even the locals get very protective of their that's how they are allowed to have fun too. Right. So it's best to leave that up for the TV commercials.
Yeah, leave it for them, or go somewhere where it's fresh water and isolated, and then you can play. We have spots around here in Florida that have mud pits. After the third person goes through, what was clear water is now mud. No, I hate to see it, particularly given, as we talked about in the last show, what happens when you mix Jeeps and salt water.
I think that's a great segue. Because Kevin and I basically, it's interesting because, the laws of podcasting always say, to get out there and be controversial and get out there and stir up the crowd. And when you get an email and from a listener, and the very first words you see are, angered me to listen to the last show. When you get that at 7 o'clock in the morning, I don't need coffee. It was like, huh? Uh-oh.
So
we're in trouble.
We're going to start off, though. I got to say, Bart, thank you so much for the email.
Yes.
After we read past the first phrase, and you did open well. You want to write some scripts?
Exactly. Yeah.
He said, I've seen a few people get scammed the same way. So he went on to discuss how he has himself seen those situations, bought a 03 as a donor or as a parts Jeep, only to look real close at it and realize that with a frame and a little bit of love and attention, he could have a really nice Jeep to sell or to use or whatever. And he sent along pictures showing the new frame, the media blasting, and then some of the shots of the progress work. And Bart, I've got to say, they look really familiar. I've seen them somewhere before in the last couple of weeks.
Well, what's really cool is like the Patreons can see on your screen right now. But again, the coolest thing he has is the refrigerator with the Jeep stickers and the parts stickers on it. Way to go, Bart. That man after my own heart.
Yeah, exactly. Along with the Bud Light calendar, huh?
Exactly.
But he shows the donor frame coming in, and I think it's a picture of the Jeep afterwards, and it looks gorgeous afterwards. It's amazing when the wheels are all lined up in their wheel wells, isn't it, Bart? And they're not kind of hanging off to one side, and there isn't rusty bits of metal dripping down underneath.
Well, he also talks about how rewarding the finished job is. And that's the thing, too. When you get in there and you understand the Jeeps ins and out, you enjoy it. You go through the process. You have created some. There's an end process. There's an end product when you're done.
Yep. And like I said, there's a beautiful picture of him. I can see he's got a 2-post lift, which is fantastic. Mm-hmm. And I also like his thin blue line flag.
And the American flag right next to it.
And there's the engine sitting on the floor underneath the hoist of the lift, and then the axle sitting on the floor, about a frame apart. It's a typical, okay, there's the gas tank. So it's pretty clear that you took it apart right where you rolled the frame out.
Yeah, no.
And went back together. So, no, I'm just, I'm really impressed to see somebody prove what I was saying. You can do a frame swap.
Yeah.
Is it detailed? Yes.
Yeah.
Is it a little bit of work? Yeah.
Yep.
Is it really rewarding? I think so, and he has said the same thing.
Yeah, especially his last line where he talked. Well, besides he enjoys the podcast, thank you. Yeah. But he talks about how how we rallied behind this person to help them out, as his brother helped him.
Yeah. So, if you're in these situations, ask around.
Mm-hmm.
Jeep, the only vehicle that comes stock with friends.
Yeah.
You'll find people that even if they don't know it, most people I knew wanted to get involved in the reconstruction that I helped with. Mm-hmm. It wasn't my reconstruction; it belonged to the owner, and it was done formally by the Red Scorpion Fab Works here in Brandon, Florida.
Yep.
Ron sponsored it, shall we say, and put up with all of the people coming in the shop. To help, mm-hmm. and even those that helped by just standing around watching and commenting, but it was an interesting thing. So, Bart, once again, thank you very, very much for sharing your email with us and the feedback. Same thing for anybody else out there. If you have any stories you want us to share, pictures, comments, send us an email, send us a Facebook post.
Absolutely.
We'll get you on the air because this stuff's too neat not to share.
Yeah, no, and that's one of the things that we kind of liked. Because, again, the feedback lets us know that, A, you're listening and enjoying the content.
Or if you don't.
Well, again, it's kind of cool because, again, it's rewarding that we're sharing knowledge. And that other people have also done too. And again, like you talked about rallying around Jeeps, can we help you rally around a project, understand and get an idea or whatever? Mm-hmm. Even sometimes thinking outside the box is always a good thing.
It is. And also jumping back to the Facebook side, I got a lot of positive feedback from the fact that for the last 2 shows, I actually put some pictures up there kind of to give you a frame of reference. So they're not a lot, but there's a few shots from Red Scorpion Fab Works. We gave you a link to them, and you can see the progress we were making. Bart does better pictures than we did. But also some of the other issues and shows up there, like the one on the creative craftwork that has Jeep involved in it.
Oh, yeah, the desk.
That was fun.
That was really cool.
And, I keep getting more and more people want to buy one. So, you can send us that. But also, I was surprised at the number of people. I decided that, let me just make a little post of what I was up to.
Yeah.
Because I get sometimes people, well, what are you working on? We don't hear from you except at the shows.
Right.
Oh, I figure you don't want to see me painting the back of my house. But I started...
Welcome to House Painting Talk with your host, Kevin.
Oh, no. I think you'd rather watch the paint dry. But no, the fun thing was I had no idea I would get such feedback on cutting up a wiring harness.
It's more than that.
Well, and folks, if for those of you that haven't checked it out on Facebook, what I have is just a short series of pictures and some comments. But I was given 2 wiring harnesses. One turned out to me to be fascinating. It was an 07, listen to me.
97.
A 97 TJ harness. But it was a really early one. In fact, I put a challenge to Scott, who's going to go.
Oh, I'm going to go home with my Calterm connector book, and I'm going to find out what the connector is.
Yeah, I've got nothing but 3 of the 5 harness sections from this 97.
Right,
and the purpose of it is simple. It was going into the scrap, and I know how to take a harness apart. It's not particularly difficult, folks. It's mostly organization. But I delume the harness, tag each connector, then I'll run the wires down till I find the first junction or halfway to the next connector if it goes from one to the other, and I'll cut it there, and I'll cut all those leads, and I like to leave at least a foot, preferably more, and I got some of them that were like 4 feet long.
Yeah, I know.
You coil it up with a zip tie or a piece of tape, and then Scott just saw it today. I buy some little 5x7 cheapy baggies like you ship things in. They're Ziplocs, but they're not sandwich bags. They're a little heavier.
Right.
They're literally parts bags. And I stick a 3x5 card written with the connector number, because I've looked it up.
Right.
I've verified the wiring harness and its connector number, because the connector style may repeat in a Jeep, but the color code doesn't.
Correct.
That makes sense, folks. That's the color codes on the wires. Because I'm one of those, and I can use this because it's not a nasty term, but anal retentive people who likes to make it, when I repair a Jeep, I want it to be back to factory if I can possibly do it.
Right.
And so it goes in that bag with the 3x5 card that says connector C133, whatever 133 is. Maybe it's just an inner harness connector, male or female if it applies. And then I'll go Jeep 97. This one's out of a 4-cylinder manual.
Right.
Because all that plays into if I need it next time. Because a wiring harness, you look at it, and the connectors on a manual Jeep may look like the connectors on a automatic Jeep, but they don't have the same exact wires in them. Some are blanked off, some are used, others are not.
Yeah.
And you can move them around, absolutely, but if you can get the one that's at least the right configuration, you'll make your life a lot easier.
Oh, yeah.
Same sort of a thing. This one was a 4-cylinder.
Right.
So it only has 4 leads out of the PCM to the fuel injectors, not 6.
Right.
Now, the funny thing I've learned, and I also learn a lot of neat stuff when I dig through these things. It's geeky, I admit. Yeah. But you dig in there, and I find that the injectors 1, 2, 3, 4 in a 4-cylinder are the same color codes as 1, 2, 3, 4 on a 6. 5 and 6 on the 6 are a unique set that aren't even in the harness from a 4-cylinder.
Oh.
So, doesn't make any difference to anybody but me.
Right.
The other thing I did find out, and this will be useful for future reference, is what the condition of the wires is like in that little plastic tube that mounts above the fuel injectors.
Yeah, when you showed me that a little bit ago, I'm like, wow, I need to check mine. And we talked about this 1,000 times where people go, that heat metal sheeting, the shielding. The shielding. On top of this. You don't need that. And they tear it off. And I even had one person look at me, he kind of grabbed and he started moving. I'm like, don't touch it. Yeah. Leave it there, please.
Well, even inside the little plastic wire chase, it had gotten so warm in there, hot, we'll call it hot, not warm, that the wire insulation jackets had all basically fused together. And I just had this one polychromatic beam.
Yeah.
Most of it's not salvageable, but you can still get the at least shorter leads off for replacement injector heads. Biggest one that I've seen is the connector to the coil pack on the later 6-cylinders. That's a single connector that goes in down at the base of that. And I haven't seen too many of them that didn't have the safeties and the locks broke off. And then for some funny reason, after too many bumps, your Jeep stalls and dies and won't restart.
Well, that's one of the things you talked about when we even started bringing up this project, is that is one of the most common connectors.
Yeah.
That it's used all over the place. You know?
And so in that case, even if you don't have the right wire colors, you can depin the factory one and put a new head shell on the other one.
Right.
And I will tell you, folks, that I did get a rebuild kit for that connector.
Right.
Okay. It came with all green wires.
Yeah.
But I did depin it and repin it. It went along when I did the head replacement on the Jeep. But that kit was like $28. This harness has cost me less than $20 to take apart, and that was buying 200 of the bags and 1 pack of 3x5 cards and a Sharpie marker.
Yeah.
And that's going to do the second one. Somebody has given me an 01 6-cylinder harness as well. It's the same 3 front harness. It's the main power harness would include the fuse box, the engine harness, powertrain, the whole thing from engine, radiator, all the way down to the gas tank, and then the front loom, which picks up your ancillary cruise controls if you have them, EGR, brake warning lights, headlights, turn signals,
just
and that
everything.
Stuff.
Yeah.
The last two that I haven't gotten so far, but they're talking about, I've got another guy that's, well, you want this one. And that is the inner body harness that does the dash. And then the rarest one, and I know where one is, and I should be able to get to it if I can get to it before the Jeep goes into the crusher, is the back harness.
Right.
It's the lightest, simplest harness, but nobody ever recovers that, and it has some of the most unique connectors out there. So I'm going to see if I can score me one of those. And then Scott's seen it. A whole 3 out of the 5 harnesses broke down and went into a box, bagged and tagged. It's about a foot by 18 inches.
Yeah, it's literally a Jeep in a box, but with extra spools of wire that you kept.
Yeah, when you get done and you've trimmed everything off and you look on the floor, you go, well, I can use a foot of, red with a white stripe, red with a green stripe, this is blue. And I tend to group them, like I'll coil them up and tape them into little loops and then put them in a bag. These are all the red wires based on the back color of the wire, not the stripe. And I can pick the stripe out of all the reds and then all the blues and all the purples and that. And
nothing goes to waste.
Not if I can help it.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard to find this stuff.
And that's one of the interesting things, because we talked about, again, the idea of what you're doing, because not only are you going to have the same gauge wire that the repair will take, the same color code, which will make repairing a little easier because you're not chasing wires, because you'll know what wire to look for. For future repairs, your color code will be consistent. Yes. So it actually makes what you're doing, yes, it takes a little bit of effort, but it's actually very smart, especially when it comes to parts availability lately.
Yep.
So that's one of the things like I wanted to touch on for a little bit, because I'm watching Kevin do this and I'm like, man, this is smart, because we talked about in one of our first shows, we talked about the JK build numbers, and they're like quite a bit more than the TJ was. And speaking of which, if you do need, if I have had one question, hey, I can't find the older shows. I don't know why some podcast providers don't have them on there, but if you go to onthetrailpodcast.com, there's a link to the archive, and you can get them.
You can just go to podcast and scroll. It takes you straight to Libsyn, our actual hosting service that everybody else draws from. And everything from our embarrassing first show where we are stuttering kind of.
Yes. So if you can't find, if you get stuck, email me. I'll send you the link. But when we talked about the numbers of everything, and parts are eventually going to be hard to find, because without going too far down a rabbit hole, the thing that I've noticed in the parts world is that times are changing. Parts are changing. You have a situation right now where if you've been on any kind of news, you've seen the fact that semiconductors and microchips, a lot of parts are made with those. And right now, I have a lot of parts that are on an intergalactic back order with no ETA date.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's infotainment stuff, and some of it's kind of make the car go vroom vroom. Mm-hmm. And there is no ETA on these parts.
There's not, because, folks, it's one of those sad things that we get upset, and unfortunately the person that we get upset with, which is the counter person,
is always the parts guy,
and he is absolutely the end of that chain, because we're talking about the pandemic, which is largely responsible for disruptions, has affected everything from the ore that brings up silicon for the silicon, to the manufacturers that make the silicon discs, to the microchip makers who actually fabricate, to then feed to the fabricators who make the parts,
right?
Who may be having shortages on the microchips. They may also be having shortages on plastics and
labor,
metals for the parts. Yeah. Oh, and then the labor to make it. And then, let's see, the trucker's getting it from point A to point B, particularly if those materials are crossing country boundaries. Yeah. That has been huge in numbers of shipments that have been stalled while they're at the border waiting for,
Yeah, and to be honest, most places don't know. I actually had to call in a guest Nissan vehicle, and I was told we don't know when the part's going to show up. We're really sorry. It's there's nothing we can do. And I'm like, okay, cool. I hang up the phone, go back, and my person who checks in the parts goes, "Hey, is this the exhaust you're looking for?"
Yeah.
And it's like, oh wow, so the parts and stuff is coming in faster than the information that's being put by human hands can cope with.
Or they can be. So
yeah. So
the key is I guess we're trying to say is, have a little patience. One, and two, maybe don't necessarily chew out the poor guy on the counter. Well, I mean, you're upset. He's probably upset too because he's not making any money if you don't walk out with a part in your hand. But
no parts sell, no parts guy get paid.
Yeah,
but it's interesting that you talked about that because it's not like batteries.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, anybody seen the price of a battery lately?
Yep.
You know, it was already skyrocketing.
Yep.
Right now,
which is weird because lead is infinitely recyclable.
Yes.
But the problem is a lot of people aren't recycling their batteries.
Yeah.
And if it goes into the waste stream, it ends up being highly toxic in the waste stream. And you know what? The battery shortage is so real. You can walk in, or I shouldn't say you can. Any of the parts stores around here, I have been able to walk in with the oldest, grungiest, dead piece of battery that was sitting under the corner of a barn or an outer shed. And trust me, I bought property recently that had a shed on it, and yes, it had old. And I walked back in. I said, "Can I get rid of this here?" And he goes, "Yes, please."
We'll take it.
We'll take it.
Yeah. And that's some of the interesting things is because again, like the JL and the Gladiator has a known issue with that remote start battery, and some of us go, "Yay!"
Oh, you mean that wee little battery buried way down underneath?
The big thing is everyone goes, "Yay, it's broke!" Because when it's broken, your remote start doesn't work.
Yeah.
And a quick little byline: a big congratulations to Tony over the Jeep Talk Show. He got himself a red Jeep Gladiator. Welcome to the Cool Guys Club. Of course, he commented, "Well, you can't get any cooler than a red LJ Rubicon." I'm like, yeah, you know.
Well, I don't know about that.
A lot of people right now are going, "Excuse me,"
and I'm right with them.
But again, like Kevin said, just have a little patience because things are in turmoil. Because everything I've heard, everyone, to be honest with you, I've actually seen some of the forums kind of freak out, saying, well, it's the end of the era because everything's going to EV and all this and all that. And I'm like, do you have any idea the infrastructure still needs a little more gas and vehicles? It's not going away tomorrow.
Not going away. And relax. And I'll be honest, I sit there the same thing. You realize that the first generation TJ, the 97s and 98s, aren't that far away from antique vehicle status.
Yeah, 25 years in Florida.
Yep. And that's scary. I wouldn't want one of those tags because they limit where you can go and how often you can drive it. Wrong answer.
I'm 50 miles a day in my LJ.
Exactly. So
every 2 days at a gas station.
That's the kind of funny thing. Those of you with the Yuppie Jeep, the YJ, that's classified as a classic vehicle now.
I wish I still had mine, actually.
Yeah, well, may it rust in peace.
No.
I thought it rusted away.
I have no idea.
Okay.
It was actually in good shape.
No, so, and then, of course, CJs, everybody is looking at CJs now as classic. So, yeah. And Willys, they're just...
They're mythical, man.
They are.
They're mythical.
They are. And every time I see one on the trail, because that to me is the ideal thing, is you can put them in a museum. That's fine. I get it. You want the examples. But much rather see it in its natural habitat doing what it was designed to do.
Heck yeah.
Crawling over things.
And bringing a smile to the person behind the wheel's face.
Yep.
Usually a look of terror in the passengers, but
minor details. Minor details. So... anyhow, what else you got there, Scott?
Well, I did kind of want to, shift gears a little bit.
Use the clutch.
Well, that's what the last person did when they left their, I'm sure everyone's, if you go on our Facebook page, you can see the video I shared, actually. Yeah. We talk about flat towing. Gee, I think we've covered a lot of show topics today.
Yes.
This is like a trip down memory lane.
Yes.
This is, again, at the time this show's recorded, they talked about how the new Wrangler Rubicon JL was left in first gear, low range when flat towed behind a RV.
Yep. And somebody did the math, didn't they, on the gear ratios, like my little check sheet.
Well, they said it's like an 84-to-1 crawl ratio, and then by the time you add in the size of the tires and the speed of the RV, they're guessing was 55.
Yeah.
That the engine was rotating at an excess of 50,000 RPM before it finally went kabang.
And boy, did it go kabang. The pictures are incredible.
Yeah.
Snapped the crankshaft off. Threw the back two pistons out, through the block, took the bottom of the oil pan with it, took the clutch and flywheel with it,
Could you imagine the noise it would have made? Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine being the car behind the RV kind of going, can I pass? Can I pass? What the?
I don't think it was far from home when that happened.
Oh. Ouch.
Yeah, and for those of you who are wondering, no, it was not covered under warranty.
I knew that was coming up.
But it's trail rated.
Not trailer rated.
But no, they talked about how the end bill was going to be like $30,000.
Yeah.
And so they're going to probably mechanically total it because I guess when everything came apart, it even bent one of the control arms.
I don't doubt it. That's violent.
Yeah, 50,000 RPM of rotational force. Ow.
Yeah. No, thanks.
Yeah.
Folks, put it in neutral. Put both the transmission and the transfer case. Yes, I know only one needs to be done, but do both just in case it bounces and slips.
Well, one of them said something about how, read the article that everyone talks about it, but they talked about having the transmission in park because of the centrifugal fluid drag rotational. So they're supposed to put the transmission in park and the
That's what they tell you, transfer case in neutral. And I get that. I'm one of the old school. For 8 millimeter bolts and nuts,
take the drive shafts up.
I'll just take the drive shafts up and chain them up to the bottom, and put the bolts and caps in a Ziploc bag and you can buy really wide rubber bands.
Yes,
and that's what I've done. I bought the 1 inch wide, 2-inch diameter rubber bands, and they hold the caps on if yours is that style. Now, if you have one of the later models with a Rapaza joint, there's nothing even to fall off.
Yeah, exactly.
You can just pull them out and tie them up. And guess what? If you take the front and rear off and tie them up, you can tow it all day.
Yeah, well, I'll go even one better. Buy a trailer, put it on.
Well, yeah, not everybody can drop, $3 or $4 grand for a nice flatbed trailer.
Yeah, you're right. It's probably better to pay the $30,000 mechanical damage.
No, take the drive shafts off.
Well, I know, but
that's a wrench, okay? That's a frickin' wrench.
Until you get all the way there and you realize, honey, where's that bag of bolts? Oh, I didn't think we needed it. I put it back in the garage.
They can be bought.
How? We're going to drive the RV to the AutoZone?
Yep. Ask me how I know. And it wasn't drive shaft bolts, but I have driven tow vehicles and RVs. Remember, I do have one. Just a little thing.
Yeah, a little small little thing.
And yeah, it's
practically a dinghy.
Yeah, well, depends on what you compare it to.
Moving on.
So, yes, and I have driven them, parked them in various odd lots, ran across highways to get to the parking lot in the local AutoZone or whatever, and said, I need.
And the guy behind the counter going, forgot your drive shaft bolts, didn't you? They were $5. Going to cost you $25 now. Kidding.
Throw in the socket wrench and I'll go for it.
We don't do that.
No.
At least the good ones don't.
They don't. So anyhow, but yeah, that just shows that while Jeeps are rugged, tough, and dependable, they are not indestructible.
No, but I will say this though, man, we're awesome in the transitions today, but they're also highly valued and also great resale value.
Yeah, and if those of you can't pick up on that not so subtle segue,
it's about as subtle as a battleship going through a bathtub. Toot toot.
Oh God, did that just give me a bad visual image?
All right, had to do that once.
Anyhow, yes, did you guys see the news release?
Yes.
That the Wrangler has been posted as
the Gladiator.
And the Gladiator. Well, it's
Go Gladiator. Yeah. Go Gladiator. It's not a real truck. Don't care. It's a Jeep with a truck bed. You see the doors off.
Oh, God.
Any boo-boo.
Patrons, do you see this guy? Those of you who aren't our patrons, I'm sorry.
Pay.
He's just over here.
And if you pay more, I won't do that again.
No, that's kidding. A threat. No, that it is now what the best value resale vehicle.
It holds its value the most.
Holds the value the best. And it's really not because it lasts longer. It's just because everybody wants one, and it's faster than Chrysler can make them.
Yeah, pretty much.
But it's been.
It's been fun.
It has been fun.
I'm actually we really enjoy ours, and again, we didn't buy it for resale value. That's why it already has 20,000 miles on it.
Yeah,
it's just kind of fun. I mean, again, the thing will always go on. The one meme they had on there, I'd like a wake up call. Well, your Gladiator's not a real truck. I didn't buy a real truck. I didn't buy a full.
I bought a Gladiator.
Yes.
No, that's fine. I have no problem with that whatsoever, Scott.
No,
I have a real truck, but that's because I need it. Okay, but I also have a Jeep.
Mm-hmm.
So in some ways, I'm paying twice, and I know it. But that's kind of what I'm doing.
Exactly.
But I have no problem with your Gladiator, and it hauls more than its fair share. I've seen it. But it was never, as you said, it was never built to be competition to the F-250s and GM 2500s and the Dodge Ram beasts, and that war has gotten insane to itself. I'm sorry, I love it, but do I really need 450 horse and 950 foot-pounds of torque off idle? No, but I like it.
This is going to probably garner a little hate mail, but I'm willing to pull that trigger.
Yeah.
So basically at work, one of my management coworkers made the comment of, a Gladiator's not a real truck, to Warren and myself, who are a Gladiator. And both of us said, yeah, neither is your TRX, because you bought one of the new Ram TRX supercharged ones.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and was like, well, what can you tow? Well, it's not meant to tow. Uh-huh. Well,
Yeah.
what's the payload capacity? It's not important. I didn't buy it for that. Okay, so if I say that,
Yeah.
so at that point it was kind of like, I'm just saying they're both toys. I can just take off my doors
Yeah. That's true.
and roof without a sawzall.
Yeah. No, and no, there's no question that the Gladiator has.
Now I'm hoping I
Really?
said TRX correctly. Was it a Ram TRX?
I don't know.
Uh-oh. Say something. I got to look real quickly. As you were saying,
Well,
it was
as
never
we were
meant to be a
segueing on to another thing, I got a question for you, our viewers, and I want some feedback, please. We got a notification from. Let me pull it up here because I'll screw it up if I don't, because it literally just came in today.
It is a Ram TRX. I was right.
Okay, you were good.
Yay!
There we go. About a new product being released from.
I think it's BF Goodrich.
Yeah, BF Goodrich.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, it's not tires.
Yeah.
Okay. And this kind of shocked me. It's a off-road wiper blade.
Yeah.
And everybody goes, off-road wiper blade? What? But having sat there and been, I can't see out the windshield because of mud splatter from the Jeep in front of me, or going through a swamp area a little too fast and getting the tidal wave turning the black hood brown,
Right.
And slushing the window and then the wipers. So my question to you is, we're going to contact them and get the press release information and let you know what they tell us. But
Right.
Have any of you out there gotten these blades?
Yeah.
And if so, what did you think of them?
Is it a gimmick? Did it really work for you? I mean, we're kind of looking for some feedback here.
Yeah, I don't know yet.
Right.
It's kind of intriguing. It is, in my opinion, a known problem.
I'm wondering if they can do love bugs.
Oh, now that's I think
a test of a wiper.
That would have to have a razor blade in it.
I'm sorry, that's a test of a wiper right there. If you live in Florida, you know.
Folks, love bugs are a small flying insect, not unlike what you might think of as a lightning bug, but it doesn't glow.
Yeah.
And they tend to fly around, male and females coupled, which is where they get the name love bug. But their body constituencies are very, very acidic.
And they're also
they swarm, and you drive, and not just splat. It's splatty.
It sounds like you're driving through like stiff hail. Sometimes
it does. And if you don't get it cleaned off or have a ceramic coating or something like that, it will literally eat pits in the paint. We've talked about this on other shows. So,
and what's weird is that not only is it acidic, but it's almost like glue.
Yeah,
it is hard to get off.
It does. So I'm going to be really interested in these wiper blades and see how they work. Many thanks to let's see, Marty. Is that what it says? No, Brenda.
Oh, Brenda. Yeah,
Brenda. And Brenda will get back to you if you listen to this before we get back to you.
Exactly.
I'd love to hear the tech data on it, and I'd like to see where you guys have tested it. And then, most importantly, you, the listeners, I'd like to know if any of you have gotten these and what do you think of them. Because, like I said, I haven't learned yet, but they may be on to something.
This isn't going to come as this is no one,
and it is non-sponsored.
Yeah. No one. This is going to come a shock to nobody. Okay, and even Kevin's going to go like, yeah, I figured as much. I literally buy the $3 Dollar General wiper blades on mine, and I use Rain-X.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I use Rain-X too. I usually do buy the better blades because I have found them to work a little better.
Nah, that's what the Rain-X is for.
Just about any blade, though, unfortunately, in Florida sun, in usually about 6 weeks, you're going.
Yeah, and that's why I buy the $3 blades.
So you don't feel so bad throwing them away?
I don't feel actually, to be honest, through my work, my cost on my blades are $3 for my precision parts brand that we carry.
Of course, I do have to recall one guy who looked at me when I was buying wiper blades. A real genius.
Yeah.
Maybe you should put some oil on those wiper blades.
I got nothing. I had Okay. I didn't want to go here, but now I have to because you made me. All right, you're an old hot rodder, right?
Yep.
You were in the drag strips and doing drag cars and all that. What's a very popular thing that you put on your quarter panels to keep the rubber from sticking to them?
There's a lot of different things we use.
Family show, either PAM or WD-40, correct?
Well, or actually, we we usually use Crisco grease. But yeah, the cooking greases work very, very well. That's what PAM is. PAM's an oil.
Yeah, it was a spray.
WD-40. We didn't do it with sprays. That was...
Okay, rewind a few years when I'm younger in my parts career.
Yep.
Very younger. So we're talking 24 years ago. And a customer came in with a blind panic. I don't know what to do. And I said, what's that? And he goes, well, a friend told me that I needed to spray PAM on my windshield during love bug season.
And now it's white, and he can't see through it.
Car was on the side of I-4.
Yeah.
He had a friend come get him. He's like, I don't know what to do. I said, you can try get some window cleaner and some rubbing alcohol or something, man. I can't help you, buddy.
Honestly, if somebody ever runs into that, that's a cooking oil. What takes off cooking oil?
Dawn
dishwashing detergent.
I know now.
Yeah.
But then in my young parts career, I'm like, I got nothing for you, bud. So not all shocker here. Not all information on the internet's true.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. That's true. So, what else you got?
I actually got nothing, bud. I actually, other than saying to our new Patreon, Mike, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
They got a chance to see some shows really early.
Yeah.
And to see me do a Rocky the Bullwinkle dance or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So real quick, into a short abbreviated garage segment, and it's really going to be more about upcoming projects.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many of you with a TJ. If you notice, since I own a TJ, a lot of my projects tend to be TJ centric.
Yeah.
But that's generally me keeping an older TJ that has seen fair trails.
Beekeeping for a second. Sorry.
No, TJ. Is how many of you guys out there have a little bit of loose steering in your TJ?
Ooh, yeah. Ooh, I do.
Yeah, no, you don't have a little bit. Yours is kind of wandering all over the road like a drunk on Saturday night.
Mine's so sloppy, it's manwich.
Yeah. So anyhow, not a sponsor.
For your northerners, that's a Sloppy Joe mix.
Yeah. My...
You still got it. I can still derail the train of thought.
You can.
Steering problems.
My steering, the TJ has a 3-part steering shaft.
Right.
And therefore, you need a center bearing in that middle shaft to keep it from flopping around.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeep put a nice little plastic ball thingy with needle bearings inside the middle of it.
Hey, that'll wear good.
Well, most Jeeps it does. But some of them, including slightly alters, either the plastic was abused when it was snapped together, suffered from some other impacts, water got into it. I don't know before I owned it. The bearings basically fall apart.
Yeah.
And the little plastic housing, in my case, pops in 2 pieces. And it has some...
kind of spits the guts out.
It does. And so it has some split clamps on the shaft right now that are holding the pieces together so that I can actually drive it. The good news is that kind of works. The bad news is doesn't really help the steering stability.
I'm on this lane.
Yeah.
I'm on this lane.
Yeah.
I'm on this lane. I'm on this lane.
Yes. So anyhow, future project is I managed to score in the work that I was doing, the volunteer work.
Yeah.
There was an old steering shaft. Scott knows it well because it donated the center rod, which will probably go and help his steering issues.
Yay!
But the bearing, it looked really horrible. I mean, crusty, rust was everywhere, flaking. But I took it apart and realized that the core, the center plastic ball with the needle bearing pack inside, was in immaculate shape.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre considering how bad everything else looked.
One was covered in grease, one wasn't.
Yeah. So I'm going to be tearing apart the steering and putting that in, and I'll be posting it on the Facebook page, a couple of shots as I go along. Another project is the larger high temperature wire loom came in. Those who've listened to the show know that Scott helped me one day. We tore the entire engine harness out, tore it apart, reloomed it, repaired it, put it back in. It's worked flawlessly since. However, the power distribution loom, which is the one that comes out of the PDU or underhood fuse box,
right, and
goes across the back of the firewall and then plugs into all kinds of little connectors along the way. The harness, the split loom is dry, cracked, and heat.
Yeah.
Just falling apart. And I have a bunch of new wire cables that I've run in separate looms. So right now, the back of my firewall is kind of looks like a New York City, telephone pole. So I'm going to do some consolidation work on that and put a new, what?
You start going there and I started thinking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I couldn't help it. I'm sorry. It's late at night.
That's his
also too
generation.
PDU. No, G.I. Joe, man. PDU is a power distribution unit. Distribution unit.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. It's the fuse box under the hood.
Yes.
But that's also in their speak. If you look in the service manual, it's called a PDU.
Exactly.
Okay. So those are the only major upcoming issues. And Scott may have some of his own. He's over here waving and raising his hand.
Let's be honest, I have a lot of issues. But
you just got a brand new set of boxes, didn't you?
Yes, I got a brand new set of boxes that are apparently aren't the ability to speak, but are is the new metal cloak. I honestly thought it'd be another 2 weeks because we talked about taking time with manufacturers and all that. I expected 4 weeks, and then Mr. Ron called me up and says, "Hey Scott, guess what I got?" I'm like, "I don't know, a sense of humor." No, I got your lifts here. I'm like, really? I guess that wasn't the answer he was looking for because he was like, yeah, it's all here, dude. I'm like, oh,
yeah, and he's like, my shop's full of boxes. I need them out of here.
Yeah, so I'm going to schedule. I'm going to come get them.
Yeah,
but that and we're going to need. When I say I'm going to need to swap out the axle shaft too, that's still leaking.
Yeah.
I did order the brake shoes from work and know that wasn't the cheapest ones. The parking brake, I actually got a decent brand.
Okay.
Some Wagner's. And then basically the lift's going to be installed and hopefully the steering box.
Yeah. Well, and what he's talking about in the steering box is that I have a new, probably only has about 200 miles on it. Is it AGM? Yeah, an AGM box that's a conversion box for the 04, 05, or 06 TJs with the Mercedes steering box, because the Mercedes steering box is a good box, but it does get really loose when it gets worn.
Yeah.
So the thing is, when you do that, you need to get an early series mid shaft, which we now have, and then the early series high pressure line isn't absolutely necessary, but it makes the installation a whole lot nicer.
I'm going to grab that too.
And that'll get him the whole new steering system. He already has the Curry Correct link on the Jeep.
Yep.
So new suspension, new steering box, new steering shaft.
New parking brake, hopefully.
Yeah, you're not going to know how to drive it.
I'm going to have to figure out the rear main seal thing still.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, it's all right, though.
It's a Jeep.
It's actually gotten a lot better.
Uh-oh, you better go check how low the oil is.
I did. It's full of oil.
Okay.
I will sit there.
It may have seated in a little bit.
Seated in a little bit, and it's not like pouring out, which is good. Mm-hmm. But it never really was anyways. But anyways, so I'm actually kind of excited because it's going to have to wait till I get my school break in the end of May.
Okay.
Sometime Mayish. Mayish. So it may be then. I'm sorry, folks. That was a terrible joke. But no, that's where I might have. I want to do it because I'm going to take a week off and multitude of sins like I did with the clutch and everything else. It's just going to have to get up underneath there and providing if Kevin's helpful and his schedule.
Yeah.
I just want to get there and do it. Maybe I'll just knock out the axle shaft one weekend coming up and get that at least done.
Yeah, you can get some of the things, the brakes, the axle shaft, those can be done out of the way because the lift can be done in a day.
Yeah.
It's a very long day. I've done mine and it's doable. It's definitely doable. But it takes a lot of effort and time and what
do you think about the steering box? How long do you think that would take?
That actually takes less than most people think. It's probably an hour and a half job.
I do have one quick question, and this just kind of popped up. We're going to freeform the show a little bit, but yeah, exactly. When I talked about the lift, I got steel lower, but upper double adjustable control arms, aluminum. Mm-hmm. You kind of did the, what's your opinion on them? I don't mean to blindside you. It's just, me thinking it's adjustable. We don't have to undo a bolt, drop it.
And that is the good side about it.
Okay.
But how often do you adjust the arms?
With how my stuff's bent?
One time.
Right.
All right. When you have the single acting, with the lock nut, you can actually have a lock nut come loose, and it won't change the adjustment.
Okay.
The double acting will. It's like Oh, shoot.
Adjustment sleeve.
Yeah, it's an adjustment sleeve. So once it's unlocked and starts to turn, I understand why they make them and why people like them. But I found that once I had my metal cloak set, and I did have a couple of the lock nuts come loose over time, the vibration and the hammering and whatnot. And to the point that I felt some wobbly, and I went in there and, oh, God, look at that. It moves. But all I had to do was put some more Loctite on and retighten them a little bit tighter.
Right.
And then they stayed put. There have been cases where people, not just metal cloak, but any of the double adjustables, and once the lock nuts on both ends, if they both come loose, it can lose its adjustment, and you have to go in with an alignment system to see about your caster, your camber, and those kind of things. So, when we do yours and we get it set, we're going to use plenty of Loctite.
Okay.
And make sure it is tight. Aluminum also is a concern, not because of strength, folks. They're plenty strong. That's not the issue here. But it has a different thermal expansion and contraction rate as to the steel studs and the steel clevises in the end and the lock nut. So the aluminum, when it gets really hot, it never does that here in Florida, will tend to grow more than the steel. Right. So where they touch, the aluminum doesn't always, but it can extrude, which means when it cools, it's no longer the exact same shape, and you can suddenly have that lock nut be loose.
Now, so my thinking was helping my guys at the alignment because, again, they struggled. But my biggest concern is that that's one of those kind of things where we should really – I honestly should have asked you. I should have gone more research, but I thought I was doing a good thing. But again –
You're helping them out. But then again, I come back to the point that – and again, folks, this is not sponsored by Metal Cloak. I just happen to have their lift. Anybody's lift, adjustable lift that's a single acting. And in other words, you actually have to loosen take the bolt out of one end or the other and turn the entire assembly a half turn or one turn. Once you put that eye back into the joint and put the bolt back in, even if the lock nut's loosened, it can't turn.
Okay.
All right. Because it would tighten the other one or loosen. Even if both of them are loose, the adjustable arm only moves fore and aft, but it can, because if it tightens on this one, it'll loosen on the other one, kind of a thing.
Okay.
And as long as you don't come off of one of those, all it does is move from one end to the other. Now, hopefully you would notice it and tighten it up. But I see adjustability as a nice feature, but I have to ask myself, how often do I adjust it? The Metal Cloak one, once I've gotten it set, I put 50,000 miles on that sucker.
Yeah.
And it hasn't moved a degree on any one of, and you know me, I haven't actually been gentle on that suspension.
No, you have not. One of the reasons why I went with Metal Cloak.
It takes a little bit of effort to set it up. I'm not going to kid you. Right. Yes, you had to lift the Jeep up. You had to unhook one of two upper control arms or lower control arms or whatever at one end and adjust, and then pay attention. Am I doing, the end result was one revolution, but am I going to do half of it at this end and half of it at the other end, kind of a thing? And
I didn't even think about that.
Well, you do have to think about it. Otherwise, you end up completely unequal in the stresses. Right. And so I kept adjusting. And once I got it there, though, and locked it down, it hasn't moved. It has not moved in, like I said, probably 40 or 50,000 miles of trail use, of road use. I've worn out a full set of tires. I'm halfway through another set.
Yeah.
Adjustability is great, but I didn't need it. Okay. And the fact that I didn't need it meant that it was more stable if something came loose. And I did have a couple of those upper front ones loosen up.
Right.
I'd be happier if they used some sort of an internal star washer or some sort of if the jam nut had a serration on it that would actually, most of the time when we deal with aluminum fittings, there is a anti-rotation treatment to the end of where the steel hits the aluminum. It's not there in a Metal Cloak. And guys, if you're listening, sorry, but that's just one of my observations as an engineer over 40-odd years of everything, not just Jeeps, that utilizes an aluminum to steel. The biggest one where it bites us in the butt all the time is electrical. Okay?
Yeah.
In fact, code now will not let you use a standard copper-rated fitting on aluminum wire, because the incompatibility of those steel but copper-plated fittings thermally to the aluminum extrudes. Then when it cools back down, it's not as thick as it used to be, and it's now loose, and it arcs, and aluminum melts when it arcs, and you end up worse and worse till you have a fire. So you have to use what's called an ALCU compatible connector when you're using aluminum. So it's a real issue. And all I tell you is use, what they recommend as far as a locking solution, whether it's a Loctite Red or, I wouldn't use green because you'll never get it off. So, and we're just going to make sure if they say that those lock nuts are to be tightened to 230,000 ugga-duggas, I'm going to hand you a wrench and I'm going to put a meter on you and you're going to give it 230,000 ugga-duggas.
Hey.
Because I'm not breaking in a new co-host.
No. And on that note, I think that saying is well deserved.
Yeah. So, anyway, folks, and again, I'm not picking on Metal Cloak's double acting.
Yeah.
A lot of manufacturers make the double acting, and a lot of manufacturers make the same kind of a system now. And yes, it's absolutely spot on, the easiest way to adjust. You loosen the lock nuts. You don't have to take a single clevis bolt out. You just turn it this way, turn it that way. It also gives you greater finesse in that adjustment because you can move it an eighth of a turn. But when you have to take the end bolt out of the Duraflex joint, pull it up, you can only turn it a half a turn, and those bolts are 16 threads per inch. So a half a turn is 1/32 of an inch. You can't go smaller. You cannot make an adjustment smaller than 1/32.
Right.
But because you're in a double acting, the advantage there is you can make as nice little tiny bump it, and
Yeah, but the first bottle, that's gone.
Hey, I'm trying to give you both sides of the story here, Bucko.
It's cool. It's one of those kind of things where honestly, when I saw it and it was an option, I'm like, well, it'd probably be a good idea, because I thought to myself, I want steel lowers because of rocks coming down on something. That to me,
to blend the two, that's probably is not a bad idea. That's really a good idea, because you do set your pinion angle / caster using the upper arms. And that's where you're going to be fussing and fighting with it constantly.
Ooh, and lots of cussing too.
Yeah.
As the wrench goes ting, 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 ting across the floor as I get angry.
Yeah, well.
Almost as angry as you were last show.
Yeah, well, people didn't see or hear a lot of what went on there. And if they'd been in Ron's shop while we were working on that thing, when we discovered that, and it was just like, after a while you get numb. You go, I can't believe he did this. And that. And that. Oh, my God, he did this. What?
So the casual passerby would have thought R2-D2 was beep, 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 beep.
Yeah, well, that shop didn't have any beeping going on. It was just as my mother used to say in the old days, the blue smoke was rolling out of the garage.
And on that note,
I'm not going to rehash the old show, but again, don't do something that's going to put people's lives in danger, yours or anybody else's.
Yeah, that's a smart way to do it.
Let's just leave it at that. Mm-hmm. It's not worth the money.
No.
So, anyhow, now we've officially gone. Oh, yeah, we have.
Yeah.
So, anyhow, I guess that's the formal part of saying, I think we've covered this subject enough.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's late, I probably am going to go lock up, put it in 4-low, and go at least drive in the backyard.
I'm going to drive 50 miles home.
You're not that far away.
It's about 40-something miles.
Really?
Yeah.
You were closer than you were before.
I got gas this morning.
Yeah.
And I'm at a half tank now.
Oh, yep. Boy. We just need to get with Mr. Musk and see if we can do an electric power pack swap for the Jeep that will do 300 or 400 miles between charges.
They actually have bolt-on electric motor live axle assemblies now for pickup trucks.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeehaw.
Either that or we need to fuel it with the Mountain Dew you have sitting there. Seems to crank your butt up tight enough.
So, on that note, I think it's time we lock up, put the Jeep in 4-low, and hit the trails.
All right, folks. Well, I hope this has been an entertaining little sidebar show.
It's been fun. There's a lot of little topics we hit. So.
Yeah. So, again, feel free if you want to look us up on Patreon. You want to send us an email at
onthetrailpodcast@gmail.com.
Or send us to Facebook, or, any other way. A smoke signal or two would probably not hurt.
Carry a pigeon.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I have 3 cats. I don't think they'd carry a pigeon to get here.
I can't. So, on that, we'll always remind you to take nothing but pictures, memories, and your trash when you leave the trail.
That's right. You done good.
Yay! I get to hit it one last time. Yay!
And if any of you have any questions about Scott's new purchase of this soundboard / audio board / mixer board /
equipment came from the Patreons.
And I'm sitting here looking at the little lights that used to all be red going up saying how loud we're talking there. Everybody's got a different color.
Yeah, we got
so I'm yellow.
I'm red.
You're not. That's pink.
No, okay, that is pink because the on air is red. I might change because that looks more orange to me. Orange is my favorite color. The best part is you have an on air button, like a mute button. I can sit here and do this all day.
Yeah.
Kevin's like, really? Let me see that button. And all of a sudden, that's the last time everyone heard from Scott. Hey. Okay, I'm sorry.
Except that he's across the table and the Patreons can see you're pushing your own buttons.
And on that, folks, we hope you have a great time. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye, Patreon.
Bye, Patreons.
You guys have a great night. And thanks, Mike. Thank you very much.